Hey everyone, this is Nace DeSanders for Borrowing Tape, and I am here with Tamara Bass, the writer and director of If Not Now, When? The story of a group of black women who each fight battles related to love and marriage. If Not Now, When? Premieres on demand and digital on January 8th, 2021, so be sure to check it out. Tamara, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad. So let's jump right in. First, I really wanted to know what was the inspiration for each of the women's stories?
I pulled it from my life. At some point, I realized each of my friends were dealing with similar situations, and I was like, wow, this is very intriguing. I wanted to write a movie that was essentially a love letter to my friends, and I was like, okay, what storylines can I touch upon? Wow, I know talking to this friend over here, they're dealing with that. Wow, this friend over here is dealing with that too. So I just pulled and yanked from them and created this journey.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. So, how did you go about writing these separate but connected storylines? Was that difficult or confusing, or did it just naturally come together?
It actually was a lot easier than I really thought it would be. To be
Really?
honest, I wrote the first draft of this movie so long ago. I want to say a good like 16, 17 years
Oh,
ago.
wow.
And I wrote it, and it was, it was a story of four friends. I banged it out pretty easily. And then it just sat, and I, put it away. And then when Megan and I were looking for something to do, I was like, let me pull this back out. And I pulled it out, and I essentially did a page one rewrite.
Mm.
And I still found that it was easy to tell these stories because I felt like I was telling it from such an authentic place
Mm-hmm.
that it flowed super easy, way easier than some of the other things that I've tackled writing, which is, some of them have taken me forever. This one didn't. I just think because I knew the story so vividly.
That's amazing. So, that actually touches right on my next question about how did Meagan Good come to be a part of the project as co-director, co-producer, and actors? It seems like she was involved from the start.
Yeah, Megan and I, we've known each other since we were 16 and 19 years old. Like
Oh, wow.
it's not a new friendship. Like we're
Yeah.
literally like grown up together. So we knew that we wanted to act in something together, and we had been trying for years to get this other film made. And then I was like, let's pivot. We haven't had a drama about, black women that told universal stories that the storylines had nothing to do with them being black women.
Mm-hmm.
They just happen to be black women. And that's the kind of material that I strive to write. I strive to write very representational stories of women, with black women at the forefront. It's my passion. It's what I do. It's what I love. I'm a champion for black women. I am one of those that is just unapologetically proud to be one.
Mm.
So when we were looking for something to do, I said, "Hey, let's do this." And right away, I sent her the script, and she always takes forever to read anything. And I was like, oh God, she hates it. She doesn't want to do this. This is, oh my God. Like I go to negative all the time. I have another friend that we're pitching a TV show together for us to star in, and the same thing. I do the same thing to her. I'm like, read this. Oh my God, you hate it. You haven't read it yet. She's like, can you calm down? So Megan hits me, and she's like, okay, I could not stop crying. We're doing this. And
Oh.
from then, it was just, hustling, trying to get the financing, and hearing a lot of no's, and hearing from studios that, we're just not making these types of movies.
Mm.
Um, and then hearing yes from some people, but it was like always yes with an asterisk. Like, yeah, we'll make it, but can you change this or can you change that? And we had
Yeah.
one person literally say to us, can you add like a sassy black girl moment? And I was like, hey, nope, like this is not, I can't do this. So we were like, okay, let's just go independent. And we met this guy through Megan's sister who was like, you guys had me at Black Women. Go make a movie. Let me
Oh.
know how it turns out. So we were able to just, stay true to ourselves, not compromise our integrity, and go for it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. So it sounds like you are no stranger to all the different hoops that you have to go through to get stuff made in Hollywood. After
Not even
that,
a little bit.
so after that pre-production phase during production, were there any other major roadblocks to getting the film made, or was it mostly smooth sailing afterwards?
I mean, there's always roadblocks when you're doing an independent film
Yeah.
on a tight budget. When you're doing an independent film that you don't want to look bad or cheap, or you want to make a film that you can be proud of and that you can stand behind. There are always going to be hiccups. It's never enough money. It's always trying to figure it out. But my motto is there's always a way.
Yeah.
Let's how can we get it done? If the answer is no, what are the options? And I take that with me on everything. Now I recently directed something over the summer that's going to come out in the beginning of the year, right after If Not Now When. I have another project coming out, and even with that, it was the same mentality. Like, okay, if it doesn't work, what are my options? And when you're making a movie in the indie space, which I absolutely love. I know it's infuriating to some people, but I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game of problem solving. It's a game of how do we make this work? How do we, get all of these locations shot in this 19-day window? Like, how do we do it? What's the best way? And to me, that's where I feed off of. I feed off of problem solving. So during production, of course, we're shooting at one location on Thursday, and we're scheduled to go to this other location on Monday. So during shooting, which happened to be a heavy day for me on camera, so I'm directing, I'm producing, and I'm on camera that day.
Oh, gosh.
We get pulled to the side at lunch, like, so that location we had locked for Monday, yeah, that just fell through. Ooh. We're trying to find another one. So it's like, okay, sure. We don't have time to go locate. Like, it was those kind of things. But that's where hiring an amazing team comes in. Joyce Washington, who is our line producer, was like, okay, I'm going to present some options within an hour. Let me huddle. Let me figure this out. And she did, and it worked out. So it's like that's the game. I don't think there's ever going to be an instance where there's smooth sailing. I don't even think that happens on big budget studio movies.
That's
it's
true.
Always going to be something. So it's like if you can figure out how to solve these problems on this scale, then I'm always like, my manager and I laugh because he's like, you're queen of being thrown into some craziness. I'm like, what's going to happen when everything is lined up? What's going to happen when, I have a budget? I have nothing to what is going I don't know how I'm going to act. So it's going to be great.
That's fantastic. I love that you're just resilient. You just, roll with the punches. Were you sleeping much during filming?
No. I think I slept on Saturday night.
Oh,
it wasn't
wow.
because it was always something. So it's like, okay, if I wrap, I go home. I use my drive home to decompress. To have my talks with God. Cry if I have to, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And then I get home and I have to prepare for the next day. So if that's if I'm doing double duty where I'm on camera and directing, it's like, okay, let me make sure all my lines are memorized.
Yeah.
Let me make sure all my intentions for the scenes are memorized. Let me go back over Meagan and I shot list for tomorrow. So it was always something. So by the time we wrapped, I went to Cabo. So we wrapped on a Thursday. I got my hair braided on a Friday. I flew to Cabo Saturday morning with my then 9-year-old, who's technically my niece, but she's pretty much my child.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Cabo, and I slept for 13 hours straight. And
wow.
I was like, are you good? You're locked in this hotel room. You can't go anywhere. You got all your food. She's like, I'm good, Auntie Tam. I fell asleep about 7 o'clock. And then the next thing I knew, it was 8 o'clock the next morning.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God, I've never slept this long in my entire life. Maybe when I was a baby, but I didn't sleep till that. It was like, okay, I needed this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I want to know about the energy on set. You have this big cast full of Black women just doing their thing. How was the energy? I imagine it would be so much fun.
It was amazing. It was everything that we set it out to be. Like we
Mhm.
have this, there's this notion that when you put, a group of Black women together, there's going to be cattiness, there's going to be animosity or competitiveness. It was
Mhm.
none of that. Like we made sure with with the casting that we tried very hard to avoid like straight offers. We wanted people to come in, even if they didn't necessarily read. We wanted to feel their energy. So
Yeah.
we knew going in, energy was important. The Mekia actually came in to read, and the moment she walked in, I just felt it. I was like, I hope this first line is good because she's it in my mind. And as soon as she opened her mouth, it was like, oh, that's a no brainer. And we saw Meagan hold her via tape, and as soon as I like watched her tape, I was like, Meagan. She's like, I was like, watch Holder's tape because we had to start referring to them by last name. I
Mhm.
was like, watch Holder's tape. So she goes and she clicks on Holder's tape and she's like, that's it. Like we just felt it when they showed up to the table read. It was like, oh yes, this is exactly what we were setting out to do. And
Oh.
Mekia was really pregnant when we shot.
Oh wow.
So I'm a mama bear. I am make sure she has her water, make sure she has her fan, make sure she had like all of
Yeah.
these things. And she was like, I felt it, the moment that I stepped on set, I felt the love. And I'm like, that's what we wanted it to be. Same with Holder. Like, she had a sex scene in her first week. And she's like, this is the first time that I felt comfortable enough to, say what it is that I was comfortable doing and not comfortable and pulling you guys to the side. I'm like, that's important. And that's the tone we wanted to set.
Yeah. I can imagine. That seems like for every Black girl in film, that seems like a dream scenario. Just having a bunch of other Black women that you can really talk to, especially like you said for the sex scene. Like the way I imagine sex scenes is like the two people who are having sex on camera, and then like 47 men standing around her with like cameras and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, that seems awful.
It is, but the great thing is okay, I'll let you in on some secrets. First of all, you ask for a closed set.
Oh,
So
okay, that
that
makes
means
sense.
that the only people on the set are those who are essential to being there. Usually the DP, um, maybe a sound person, and that's it.
Okay.
And then you clear what's called Video Village. You clear Video Village as well. So the only people at Video Village tend to be your script supervisor, your director, and then usually one person that the actor will deem okay. Like for
Okay.
me, when I shot mine, I was like, obviously I want my script supervisor, I want Meagan. Meagan has to be there,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted my costume designer, who I grew very close to, and I'm like, can we have Janelle on set too? Because she'll make sure the pasty is covered, and she'll tell me different things. So it's like everyone has their person that they trust.
Yeah.
And then you establish a respect and a boundary with the performers, so they know like at any moment if you're uncomfortable, you say cut. And
Yeah.
I've now directed like my follow-up project is this movie called Don't Waste Your Pretty, and I had to direct a sex scene between Deborah Joy Winans and Rhetoric Williams, and it was Deborah Joy's like first sex scene. So
Mm.
we spent the weekend before like at my apartment going through and like looking at all the sex scenes on TV and basically choreographing like
Oh gosh.
how it was gonna go. Like, okay, he's gonna take off your shirt here, and then he's gonna step back. He's going to, then you're gonna lift his arms. Like it's those kind of things. You do that so that the actor is comfortable.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That
Yeah.
sounds a lot better than what I had in my head.
No, you think you have in mind? I'm sure is what the sense of like pornos are like.
That probably.
Not like and nowadays even SAG has what's called intimacy coordinators. And you can have someone on set that basically is there to help with any of your intimate scenes if you want one.
Oh wow, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's some bonus film tips for listeners.
Yes.
That's so funny.
It's crazy. It's all those little things that people don't. They just see a beautiful sex scene on TV, but it's like, no, it's so technical and it's so like not fun.
Exactly. So could you tell us a little bit about the title? Where does the title come from? Could you tell us about its relevance in the film?
Yes, it started out with a actually one of the characters in the film actually said it. Actually, my love interest character, Walter, says it to Patrice. He says it in their like vulnerable scene. And even as the rewrites went, the line got taken out, but it still stuck with me. And I felt like it was an appropriate title and it represented each of them, each of these women, where they are in their life. If we don't make a decision now, when are we going to make it? Be it love, be it, a decision about taking a chance in a new relationship, about ending a relationship, about anything. If you don't get help with your addiction problems now, when are you going to do it? And as it progressed, it just felt like this was it. And now it's the first thing that everyone asks about. They're like, the title. Wow, I love it. And I'm like, oh, thanks. How do you like that? It felt appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. It's very to the point, and yeah, I like it. So, could you tell us, how did you find the experience of working with the cinematographer, Craig Dean Devine?
Oh, it was great. He came in to our first meeting, like when we were still hiring DPs. He came in to this meeting and he just got it. He got what we were trying to do. He got, what he understood our budgetary limitations, but he just was a team player. So he made it easy for us. And when there are things, neither one of us are technical directors. Like, we can explain to you exactly what it is that we want, but we might not have the correct film school terminology, because I went to film school for writing and I was also a theater major. So I'm like, I didn't learn all the different lenses and the different shots. So being able, I'm a photographer, so I have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to lens, but for the most part, the technical stuff we didn't know. So he was able to translate for us, like, hey, Craig, we want this. And he's like, okay, I got it. How about this? And he would show us and we'd be like, yep, that's exactly what we were talking about.
Oh,
so
great.
It was a very synergetic relationship.
That sounds fantastic. Like, an ideal pairing.
Yes, very much.
So, which films or directors have influenced you as a filmmaker and your film? If not now, when?
My biggest influence, I would say, I have a couple, but for different reasons.
Okay.
George Tillman is my favorite director. Just because he has this ability to make me feel whatever it is that, like, The Hate U Give, I've seen it 3 times and I cry every time I see it. Russell Hornsby's character was amazing, and I'm like, that's all George. And as an actor, I tested for Notorious years ago. I tested to play Little Kim, and to this day, it's still one of the best auditions I've ever had because of him. Like, he just has this way with actors, and he has to be a good friend. His wife is one of my closest friends, and just knowing that I have that resource to tap into, and like, I constantly learning from him. Another one is who set this trajectory for me is Casey Lemons, because Eve's Bayou is my favorite movie. And Casey Lemons, that movie was the first time that I saw a film that represented the types of stories I wanted to tell. Like, here's a story about this family, this affluent family in New Orleans, and yes, they were a Black family, but the story could have been about any family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's so smart and it's so well done. And I watched it recently again during quarantine, and I'm like, oh, it still holds up. So her, and another one is Tanya Hamilton, who is actually at one point attached to direct If Not Now When.
Mm-hmm.
And she, once the funding came through, it was like the day before the funding came through, she like books this job, and it took her completely out of it, and she was so bummed. But through our interaction and through our time together, like, she was able to give me notes on the script. She was able to like set my mind on different things, and I came away from her knowing like things don't have to end neat in order for it to be a great story. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then she directed this movie called Night Catches Us with Kerry Washington and Anthony Mackie, and it's one of my favorite indies ever done. And I'm like, I know what your budget was. It was so limited, yet you still took 2010 Philly and transformed it into 1976 Philly on this budget, and you pulled it off, and you made me believe, and you made me feel. So those, I would say, are three directors who are just instrumental in my evolution. And then last one would be Pete Chapman, who is my best male friend. And I've known him for 14 years, and I've watched his hustle, and he's right now like killing the episodic TV game.
Mm-hmm.
But he is my human film school. I literally ask him questions, like, I'm like, okay, bro, I got questions. He's like, all right, shoot, hit me, call me, like, let's go through them. And he literally just answers every single question, but he makes sure that I understand, and then he puts it back on me. Like, I say, hey, why does this movie over here look cheap and this movie over there look expensive, yet they're on the same budget? He's like, okay, well, tell me what it is that you see. And so as I like pointed out, he's like, so you do know what it is, you just don't have the terminology. Here it is. So those four are pretty much why I'm here.
Wow. You can't see me, but I'm smiling like an idiot right now. It sounds like you have just the greatest network of supportive friends. Like, everyone's doing their thing, everyone's looking out for each other. It sounds fantastic.
It is, and I know it's so rare, and it's unfortunate because in the early part of my career, I was looking for that, and I didn't, like, maybe because everyone saw me as an actor, and there's this competitive world within acting that feels like you got to pivot. And I'm like, guys, that's not how I'm wired. I'm wired where it's enough for everyone. It's not just, if it's not my job, it's not my job. So it's like, I believe that what is yours is yours. So I've always been very very open with my knowledge. And then I would encounter people who weren't. So I was like, okay, well, what's wrong? Yeah. But then once I, readjusted some of my circle and readjusted those that I was like, okay, this is who I can count on. I've been blessed to have, the best support system. Like, literally any call. Like, I recently was up for my first, like, mini studio movie, and I had like a second meeting. Ended up not getting it, but I remember being able to call George and his wife and being like, hey guys, what do I do in this second meeting? And getting invaluable lessons, or getting an editor's cut from the TV One movie I did, and being like, guys, this isn't what I thought. And George is like, tell her to calm down. You're basically going to fix it all next week in your session. Like, so it's like having people like that in my corner makes me realize, like, I'm not traveling this alone. And it also allows me to still be me, which means, like, I am famous for trying to get all my friends jobs. I am like, each one teach one. Like, that's just how my mentality. So knowing that I have a circle that does that for me, keeps me excited about still doing that for others.
Yeah.
So it's a great little circle I've built.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. So, if audiences are to leave this film with only one central idea or message, what would you like it to be?
I want them to leave feeling hopeful, feeling that no matter what your situation is, there is, as long as you have hope, there's a way out. And as long as you have a support system, even if that support system is a person of, a support system of one, recognize that you're blessed and you're lucky, and that with that one person, you'll be able to make it through.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Remarkable. I love it. So, final question. Before we leave, I do want to hear about your upcoming projects. You did briefly mention a project called Don't Waste Your Pretty.
I directed this project called Don't Waste Your Pretty that's coming on TV One in I think the end of February, beginning of March is what I was recently told. It stars Carrie Hilson, Deborah Joy Winans, Rhetoric Williams, and it's just a story about this group of friends and their romantic quandaries that they're trying to maneuver around, a nice romantic drama. Um, and I'm excited about that. I got to work with amazing talent, and currently Deborah Joy Winans and myself are pitching a TV show that I created, that both of us would star in. Since Greenleaf is wrapped, she's like, okay, let's do something else. And I'm excited about that. So that's what's coming up next for me.
Wow, super exciting. So we'll be sure to look out for that. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.